podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Besson and I am a relationship expert, international speaker and best-selling author of the book Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news or social media, the perception given to people is wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, and listen to what real people think, do, or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and the stories. And here today, we are going to talk about the relationship with these substances that maybe we shouldn't be consuming, and therefore how to deal with addiction. Whether it's our own or whether it's someone close to us. And to do that, I've got here Stacey Miller. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, Sophie. Thank you for having me today.
No problem at all. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. You?
Yeah, good. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, I work in training education. So my business name is Stacey Miller Consultancy. So training lots of professionals up around anything wellbeing related, so mainly mental health, domestic abuse, drugs and alcohol. And then education wise, work lots in schools, teaching the young people, parent evenings, and then I also run conferences for professionals and for young people as well.
Okay, so I think the first thing really is, what is addiction?
That is a good question. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because addiction, it's like, is that dependency? Is it the same as dependency? How do we know we're addicted? You know, I think, if we think about our view of addiction, if you ask a typical lay person, what's your view of addiction? What do they look like? And it'll be like, you know, like a homeless person drinking out of a brown bag or something like that. When actually, you know, I used to be a drugs and alcohol counsellor. You know, the people I worked with, they all looked very, very different backgrounds and, different colours, race, whatever. So it's important to know that it can literally affect anyone. So there are stages of addiction. The first one is experimental, which is where literally you're just a bit curious and you try it. And then that can move on to recreational, which is where we might take it, like, for example, party drugs is a classic example. I still know loads of people now that take party drugs, maybe at festivals or the odd party, but they can drop it. You know, they don't feel like they need it all the time. And then you have the addiction, the dependency, which is basically where you feel like you need to have it to cope basically with day-to-day life. Doesn't necessarily mean like in the morning.
It doesn't mean you're dipping a crasso in wine or something.
Yeah, so someone will say to me, well, I'm not addicted because I don't need a drink when I wake up. And it's like, well, okay, so do you drink like every day then? Oh, I do in the evenings, not till 10, but I don't need it when I wake up. Well, okay, well, you still have it every day. So that's not ideal, is it? So yeah, dependency or addiction is basically when you do need it to just cope with day-to-day life, basically. And that is normally a daily thing.
And I think, you know, it'd be fair to say, if I look around myself and a lot of people I know, certainly recreational with alcohol is something that a large number of people do. And I think also now, you know, the number of times when you hear, I'm going to go home and open a bottle of wine, a lot of people do that.
Well, it's socially acceptable, isn't it, to, you know, drink, basically. It's, you know, they say that it's one of the hardest things to give up. When I've helped people get off heroin and cannabis, cocaine, alcohol is the hardest because it's legal. A lot of people do it. And it's everywhere, isn't it? We're kind of like, especially the UK, we're kind of brainwashed really that alcohol like sorts everything out. It's your coping strategy. It's the way you socialise. And with alcohol, like what the world comes to, we wouldn't be able to cope.
Well, I think that, you know, in a number of civilization, it's associated with celebrations as well. So at a wedding, a birthday, at a whatever, it is associated with a good time, so to speak. And that, I mean, I've rarely been to a wedding, for instance, where as they come out of the church or whatever, they give you a glass of orange juice. A lot of the time it's a glass of bubbly.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's a good point, actually, that we should remember, is that it's all okay in moderation. You know, alcohol is not a bad thing.
If I
Yeah.
came out of a church and they gave me a glass of orange juice, I'd be pissed off. I think this is the point, though, because that's kind of what we expect.
Yeah, that's true. And it's fine. It's just whether, like, you know, it's overtaking your life. So, you know, are you looking forward to that, you know, bubbly? You know, are you obsessive about it? You know, when you're going to be able to have that first drink? Because if you are, then that's not a good sign, is it?
So what would you say to people who say, oh, but, you know, I share a bottle of wine with my husband in the evening, you know, that's not being addicted. That's not, you know, an issue.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because
common.
a lot of people, yeah, and I'm with you. Like, I love sharing a bottle of wine with my partner, you know, but just not every night. Even though I probably could, I'm not going to lie. It's very easy, isn't it, to get in that habit of, you know, just share a bottle of wine. It's only a couple of glasses, you know. So, and government allowance as well, recommended allowance, is that you can have a glass of wine, roughly, depending on units and stuff. But roughly, as a female, adult female, I could have a glass of wine, but not two. And really, you know, more than you know, having a few days break is really important as well. So yeah, it is difficult. I hear you. I'm not exactly an absolute saint.
But a lot of people who do share a bottle of wine don't actually think they've got a problem.
I mean, to be honest, a lot of it is just habit.
A lot of
isn't
them
it?
probably don't, to be fair.
Yeah.
But,
you know, they're not really going to get the shakes if they give it up. But, you know, it's no good for our health. If we need a good couple of days, we need at least 2-day break, preferably consecutive days as well, for our body just to recover. Because, you know, it takes an hour for your body to process 1 unit of alcohol, which is like a single measure of vodka, you know, or like half a pint. Just that's an hour. So if you're, like, you know, having a few drinks every night, your body's not really recovering until sort of morning, and then it's only having a day off, and then it's on it again. So, you know, we need to look after ourselves a bit more, don't we?
and obviously, I'll say obviously it's not obvious, but there's a few things like dry January or whatever. My view on dry January is not actually that great, if I'm completely honest with you, because I feel that if you really need to force yourself to give it up for a month, and having watched people go through it, where actually that's all we think about, and all we can do is wait for the 1st of February to have a drink, and then actually they just carry on as they were. So it's not about resetting themselves into healthy habits, it's more about stopping themselves for a month to prove that they can. That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, it's a mix. If you look at the statistics around dry January,
I don't know, so I'm looking forward to that.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. So it's mixed. So some people, like you say, but on the 1st, what do they do? At 1st February, what do? They go out and they binge drink, which we know binge drinking is not ideal. And then they just basically go back to what they were. But what a friend of mine's doing at the moment, actually, she's doing dry January, and she said, you know, I'm noticing that I'm sleeping better, I've got more energy. And I said, well, do you think you'll keep it up? And she said, I don't think I'll ever have a month off, but I will, like, have more times in my life where I think, you know what, I've got a couple of weeks where I've got loads of social stuff going on at the moment, I'm just not going to drink, because she's seen the benefits. So that's really good. I don't know if I would want to do it. I think January, if anything, I'll probably drink more because it's such a depressive month. But yeah, I probably shouldn't say that. But yeah, I think it's true. So it's a picking a time for you, isn't it, really?
At the same time, you know, when people say, for instance, I'm going to share a bottle of wine with my wife, partner, husband, whatever, sometimes it's a sign of something deeper. You know, any addiction thing is a symptom of something deeper. And it might just be that they're not happy at work, or that something is not quite working out the way they want it to. And it's kind of an escapism.
Yeah, it's always about looking at why. Like, why do we do that behavior? And then unpick it. So I know for me, I like a glass of wine because it's the reward. It's also my way of just chilling out. So, you know, if I knew I had a problem with it, I would then go, okay, so I know that. So let's look at other things that I can do as a reward. You know, other things that I can do to chill out. You know, it doesn't have to be bad, negative behaviours like drugs or alcohol.
And I think that this is a thing. There's a few triggers, isn't there? Because you've got the trigger of it's a reward because I've had a good day. It's something to do because I'm relaxing. It's a reward because I've had a bad day. So there's so many different triggers that I'm not going to say push us to alcohol because not everybody does that, but that people will use as an excuse, so to speak.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in exploring their own drink or drug use, whatever, from themselves or other people, is to always start with like a diary, like a drug drink diary. And basically what that will do is it will unpick what your habits are. So it will be, are you, so for example, if it's alcohol, are you doing it with a specific person? Okay. So if you are, then maybe you don't hang out with that person as much. I'm not saying you don't have to hang out with them at all. Or say to that person, like, do you fancy cutting down with me? Use them as a clutch to help you. Also, the great thing about diaries as well, you might find out, is there a certain time that you like particularly drinking, taking drugs? Is there a particular feeling that it's associated with? Because if it is, then it's just a great way of unpicking what's going on, basically. And it's great. It's making me think, yes, I like a drink at 9 o'clock at night, so maybe I should just go to bed. So yeah, it does make you think.
And I think with any addiction, the thing is wanting to do something about it. Recognizing that potentially there's a problem, or maybe there isn't a problem, there could be in the future, and then wanting to do something about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's the first thing, really, when we think about sorting out any habits, is it's just acknowledging that it's probably not ideal and that we need to do something about it. I also think as well, it's about managing those expectations. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to give everything up. If someone said to me, you've got to give up alcohol, I would be totally disengaged. Whereas if someone said to me, right, you're going to cut down just a little bit, I'd be like, oh, okay, I can do that. So it's about making those kind of manageable steps. And again, steps that are your steps, not anyone else's, because the only person changing is you. So it's about making it more personal to you, basically, your journey.
I think, as you just said, it's the language used around that as well, because sometimes it makes us feel guilty or bad or whatever, and therefore we're going to beat ourselves up that we are really bad and it's all horrible, and then we just don't even try. I recall some time ago someone had said about reading a book which was about giving up alcohol, and I can't remember what it was called or anything like that, but I started it and I didn't think I had a problem, but by page 10, I just wanted to shoot the guy, because and he's probably had some very, very good points around, alcohol is a drug that shouldn't be legal because it's actually worse than the other drug, which is kind of what you were saying. It kills more people and all the rest of it. But at the same time, because he was making it so bad and so demonized, that I completely switched off to it.
Yeah, we have to be careful, because someone, it's like when I used to be a drugs worker, someone will come in, and if I said to him, I'm going to get you off heroin in the next couple of months, they would look at me, laugh, and probably never ever see me again. Whereas I'm like, okay, so what we're going to try and do is we're not even going to talk about drugs. You're going to try and see me once a week or whatever's manageable for you. And we're literally just going to get to know each other. Because if you have a relationship with someone, they're more likely to make changes. Whereas if you try and make someone change and impose it and coerce, those methods don't work, do they?
No, it just gets your back up, doesn't it? Now, we're talking here about, recognising in ourselves that there's an issue. But what when it's with someone else? There's a friend of mine whose mother, who's quite elderly now, she's always liked a drink, he likes a drink, but she now starts drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning, and and all she does is drink, to the point that when they go and see her or to take her out to a restaurant or whatever, they don't order alcohol, but she does. But they're trying everything that they can to stop her, but she's just on a downward spiral, and there's nothing that they feel they can do.
So did they, presume they talked to her about it then? And she just
basically.
Okay, so again, if you think about the stages of change where she's at, she's in the denial stage. She's not even thinking about it. So that it's difficult. It's funny enough, I'm having a similar thing with a friend who's in an abusive relationship.
Mhm.
You know, I really want to help her get out. However, I know that is not going to work. It's the same with the situation with this lady. It's all about just building up a relationship, because you can't force someone to do something like that unless it's obviously against their own mental health and they need to go in hospital. But you can't make someone do it. It's about building up a relationship. So when they are ready and you're not stressing them out, they are more likely to say to you, you know what, actually.
But what about in this particular case where, you know, he's got a relationship with her? It's her mother, is his mother. So what do
Yeah.
you do? You know, I know I've heard of other, not recently or whatever, but of people saying the partner drank too much. How do you, because the relationship is there, so how do they address it? Is there a way?
Yeah. Yeah, it's about saying, look, would you be up for speaking to someone about this and getting an actual person who's like an expert into doing it? You know, when I was an expert in a drug counselling, you know, like I always used to say to the family member, like, you don't need to do that. That's our job. We'll help you with that. And get support themselves as well. That's mega important. So what we often forget about is that drugs don't just affect the person, do they? They affect the family, the partner, you know, the wider community. So it's important, I would suggest, for that person, the family member, to go get help themselves, and they'll be able to get advice. So like, for example, Parent Support Link are a really good charity based in Hampshire. And if anyone's listening that's out of Hampshire, call them up anyway, because they'll know about services that are in Dorset or basically other charities out there that can help. So it's about saying, look, why don't you speak to someone? I'm not saying you've got to give up or anything like that. You know, one of the worst things you could say actually is, you're going to give up. This is really bad for you. You know, they probably know that. You know, they probably have no intention. So
And this is the thing, you're just adding pressure to the situation then, aren't you?
yeah, so I've done it with my brother recently, right? So my brother is addicted to crack cocaine. And my parents obviously want him to give up crack cocaine, but that doesn't work like that. So my first thing that I've said to him, my first thing that I'm doing is I'm just trying to build a relationship with him, because often obviously he's very chaotic. My second thing that I'm really trying to do is I'm just helping him use safely. So that sounds bonkers, doesn't it? But it's like, you know, if the person's elderly and they're drinking, making sure that they try not to drink on their own, because if they fall, they're stuffed, aren't they? So with my brother, I'm saying, right, okay, so are you sharing paraphernalia, for example? Where are you getting your foil from? You know, so I'm trying to get him in touch with people that will give him like constant, like what they call clean works, which is basically like paraphernalia. So they don't have to keep sharing, because if they share it, that's when they can get bloodborne viruses like, you know, hepatitis and stuff like that. So that's all I'm doing at the moment. And my mum thinks it's bonkers. She's like, he needs to give up. And I'm like, he's not going to give up. But if we can just get him to
sort of thing.
use drugs safely. So the next stage after using stuff safely is to then like harm reduction and cutting down. So hopefully after this will work for maybe I'll probably have to do it for a good few months. Then hopefully he might want to cut down. You know, you never say to him, right, you're going to give up. That's the worst thing ever. And then once you cut down, you then start seeing benefits, like he won't have to steal so much, for example. You know, he'll be able to be less stressed, because he won't be like stressing all day about how he's going to get his money for his, you know, his crack pipe, basically. So he'll be able to see benefits, and then his health will improve as well. So crack's really bad for your lungs, for example. And I've noticed that his breathing is atrocious, and he's only like 31. He can hardly breathe. So straight away, he'll be able to notice that his crack cocaine, you know, it really affects breathing. So, you know, straight away, if he starts cutting down, he'll notice that his breathing will be a lot better. And then if he notices that, he might go, you know what, I might cut down a little bit more. So instead of using once a week, maybe I'll use just once a month. And then before you know it, you know, hopefully, not always, they, you know, give up completely. That's the ideal, isn't it? It doesn't always work.
One of the reasons why people want them to give up now is because of the fear and the lack of understanding, I suppose, that they can cut down or that they can reduce over time.
Definitely. You know, we can all do anything we put our mind to. I think that's really important. We remember that the power of the mind is huge, but only we can do it, you know, and again,
And I think, I mean, I don't know your brother, obviously, but I think, you know, again, there is something deeper to it. And he's got to realise what that is, and he's got to want a different life.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think, sadly, because he's just not got that mindset of, you know, wanting to help himself. He never has, even since like he was a little kid. He's never used his initiative in anything really. So yeah, it's sad, but in my head, I just keep thinking, I just don't want him to die an overdose. You know, so that's my goal, because I know my parents' goal is, oh, we want him to quit and get a job. You know, but he's never had a job in his life, and he's 31. So I don't think he's going to start now when he's smoking crack. So,
and I think this is the thing for the people watching around. It's that feeling useless and unable to help, and you just watch them destroy themselves, and you feel like there's nothing you can do, and you don't understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, and blame as well. You know, like I expect my mum and dad, you know, blame themselves, you know, oh, is he doing it because of, you know, us being tough on him as a kid or whatever, you know. And it's about the nature nurture debate, isn't it? What causes this? You know, it's a mix, isn't it? It's an absolute mix. It's not always just childhood. It can be absolute environmental factors as well, for sure, but only he can sort it out, unfortunately.
No, that's right. And you know, we were talking about the different stages of addiction, and you know, when you become kind of dependent on it, because for instance, if we go back to drink or lighter drugs, shall we say, when we start using them daily, now at what point does that become dangerous and likely to escalate, where we increase the amount or the strength or whatever?
Yeah, it's normally when you notice it affect your day-to-day life. So if it's stopping you from going to work, or, you know, for example, you could be really hungover in the morning and you've noticed that you've started calling in sick for work. Yeah, that's a red flag, isn't it? If you've noticed that you've started ditching all your mates that are quite good for you, and you've only hanging around with like your party friends, you know, it's noticing stuff like that. Also, if it's affecting your health, if you're starting to commit crime, you know, just things like that. They're huge red flags to say something's not right here and you need to sort it out, basically.
And for some people, you know, using drugs or alcohol, it's not even a cry for help. It's just a coping mechanism.
Loads of different. Some people do it just because they like getting wasted. You know, I used to have a bit of a problem when I was like at school. And when I think about it now, did I have any childhood problems? No. And if I'm really honest, Sophie, I just enjoyed getting high, basically. And the only reason I stopped because those highs weren't as good anymore. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to knock it on the head. And that's it. Simple as that. So, so there's an array of reasons. If we know that it's a coping strategy, drugs, if we know that, then it's looking at alternative coping strategies that are healthier. That's really key.
And where can people get help, whether for themselves or for others, as in family members, partners, whatever?
Yeah, so you know what? We're really lucky in England that we have a lot of support. So again, we're very quick to criticise this country all the time, when actually I think we need to start being more grateful. Wherever you live in this country, you can go and get access to free drug treatment. Free. So if you're a young person, so in Hampshire, it's Catch 22. Again, if you're outside of Hampshire, contact Catch 22 anyway. They'll be able to put you in touch with whoever your provider is. If you're an adult, then it's an organisation called Change, Grow, Live. They used to be called CRI. And again, they'll help you if you're out of the Hampshire area. And then if you're a family member affected by it, so obviously we don't want to forget that. That's really, really important, because we always neglect talking about families. And actually, like thinking about my own brother, like he's brought a lot of stress to our family. And I've got other addicts in my family as well, hence why I probably do my job. And it's stressful, you know, it's really like, it's hard work. So for people in that situation, there's an organisation called Parent Support Link. Again, Hampshire, but they'll direct you if you needed. They're called Parent Support Link, but actually they work with anyone affected.
So if it was your partner, they could still support you.
So I've used it to help me, because I've lost intolerance now. I've got tolerance for work, but when it's family, I'm like the opposite. I'm just like, oh, for goodness sake, you know, sort it out. You haven't had a bad life, man up, basically. But Yeah, that's me being really harsh because he's my brother. But yeah, they don't just help parents at all, even though they're called parent schooling. They help anyone. So that's even young people as well. So they can call them up as well if they have like a family member.
We're kind of talking about like extremes here, you know, when he's got bad. But if we just talk about the run-of-the-mill person who just likes to share that bottle of wine every night or not share it, it is still a little bit of an addiction. So what can they do? Is it just a case of like consciously thinking, right, I'm going to keep it to just certain days and make sure that I don't come out of that, so to speak?
Yeah, so there's a few things that they can do, and it's whatever works for them. So it could be that they replace it with someone else. They could do some lovely bit of meditation or something before, or it could be that they just don't have it in the house. So for example, I know that if I have a lot of wine in my house, I'll drink it. Whereas with gin and stuff like that, I'm not that bothered. So I just try and make sure, again, guilty that I don't always list this, but I just try not to have wine in my house. It's as simple as that, really. Have different hobbies as well. Like, so now, again, because I know I like having a drink in the evening, I'll make sure that I'll go and do a spin class or something. Because I don't like drinking after a certain time as well, because I just find it makes you go to the toilet all night. And where's the fun in that? So I'll make sure I do the spinning or something like that. And ask for help if you need it. You'd be amazed how many people genuinely want to help you. So like, and again, it's interesting with alcohol, especially alcohol, because everyone kind of puts pressure on you to drink, don't they? When you say, oh, I'm going to have a bit of a breather, they say, why is that? I've had it before where people have thought I'm pregnant or I'm ill because I just want a few weeks off drinking. You know, it's a weird one how we like relate to that. It's really bizarre how people think about alcohol. We're almost like forced to do it, aren't we? That pressure to be like everyone else, when actually it's not the best habit in the world to have, is it? So yeah, but enlisting help is really important. Stay to people. There's something in psychology called a social contract. If you want something to happen, you tell people. You say, right, so it's alcohol.
So you
tell everyone, put it on your phone. Yeah, so what happens is we kind of have to then do it. So for example, if I put on my Facebook now, I'm going to give up alcohol, I'm done, I'm over it. You know, if I go back to drinking, I'm going to look like a bit of an idiot. So that's why social contracts are great. They're really good for like if you want to give up like drinking, cut out what you're eating, whatever it is, whatever that behaviour change is. A social contract is a really good idea.
And I think the other thing as well is understanding why you do it. And as you said, you know, is it at certain times? Is it because actually you're not happy at work? Is it because you're not happy in your relationship? Is it because there's something troubling you and you're finding it as a way out to not confront the real problem?
Yeah, like just look at why. Like I speak to a lot of people and they say they have it as a way of social anxiety or sleeping. You know, alcohol actually messes up your sleep. It makes you have less REM sleep, where you dream and things like that, where your body is actually needed to relax and to repair itself and ready for the next day. So it gives you a bit more deep sleep, alcohol, but it doesn't give you the other parts of the sleep, which we all need. So yeah, alcohol and sleep, that's a big myth, that. Yeah, just trying to get help, cut down, don't give yourself like big tasks to do. Don't say to yourself, right, you're going to give up tomorrow. You know, don't put so much pressure on yourself, because you're only going to set yourself up to fail, aren't you, if you do that?
Well, Stacey, thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you. Is there anything else you want to add?
I've again been designing loads of resources on drugs. If anyone wants any like brief intervention advice on drugs or alcohol, I've put some stuff on my website that people can just download for free. So just staceymillerconsultancy.co.uk, where I've designed resources. People just download them for free, and they're just a really good reference guide for signs and symptoms and how to get help. So thank you, Sophie.
Thank you so much. And for everybody else, if you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.